Today we'll talk about the digestive system. A few functions of the digestive system: ingestion, we need some means to take in the food; digestion, which is the breakdown of that food; absorption, which is the traveling of that food from the digestive system into the blood; propulsion, which is movement of the food along the digestive system; secretion, there's a lot of secretions going on of different enzymes and other substances. And of course, elimination. Eliminate. Is that how to spell eliminate? All right, which of course is getting rid of the substances. I want to note here that the digestive system is a little more complicated as far as the membranes go than other types of membranes that we've seen. We've looked at the pericardium surrounding the heart and the pleura surrounding the lungs. But in both of those, it's a very simple organization. I use the example of a balloon and putting your fist in a balloon. The visceral peritoneum, the visceral membrane adheres to the surface of the organ, while the parietal serous membrane is lining the cavity, and between that is the serous membrane cavity where the serous fluid is located. However, in the digestive system, there are many different organs. It's not just one organ. It's not just the heart or the lungs, but we're talking about the stomach and the small intestines, the large intestines. We're talking a lot of organs in the abdominal pelvic cavity, and so this peritoneum has to cover and surround all of those, and realize that it's the same organization is putting my fist into a balloon. But now there's a whole bunch of organs. So we have the parietal peritoneum that lines the cavity wall of the abdominal pelvic cavity, and then it comes in and surrounds the organs. It will come in and surround the liver and the stomach and the intestines, okay, like this. So it has that same orientation. So the visceral peritoneum lies or adheres right onto the organ, and the parietal will kind of line that abdominal pelvic cavity. All right, now those areas where that peritoneum comes together, okay, and then it'll go around an organ like this, and it will come together again and then surround another organ like that. Those areas where it comes together is it has double layers or even quadruple layer of peritoneum, and they have special names. So when you see the words omentum and mesentery, those are all areas where that peritoneum has come together to form a double or a quadruple layer. Okay, so keep that in mind. But it still is a serous membrane. There are 4 layers of the digestive system wall. So if we follow, from the mouth and esophagus down to the stomach, and then the small intestines, then the large intestines, rectum and anus, we find that the wall along that whole system, there are 4 layers. Okay, starting the most superficial layer is the serosa or adventitia. It's made up of epithelium and connective tissue. And the difference between a serosa and an adventitia is that the adventitia is located, is found, or it's only, this outer layer is called the adventitia when it doesn't have the peritoneum around it. Okay, so there are areas that are outside of the peritoneum, which we call retroperitoneal, and then it's called, the outer layer is called an adventitia. If it does have a serosa, if it does have a serosa, then it has that peritoneum around it. Okay, deep to the serosa is the muscularis, which is smooth muscle layers. The submucosa is next with connective tissue, and that's where the majority of the vessels and nerves are located. And then we have the deepest layer, the one closest to the lumen, or the inside, is called the mucosa. And that's made up of epithelium, connective tissue, and it's a thin layer of smooth muscle. Down here I put histology, simple columnar epithelium. The majority of the epithelium that lines the digestive system is simple columnar epithelium. Now that changes in different areas, but for the most part, the digestive system epithelium is simple columnar epithelium. Let's take a look. We're not going to go through all the parts of the digestive system. It's pretty straightforward as you do your reading and look at the notes. You will have to go through all the different organs. I'm just going to take a look at one, the stomach. It's a J-shaped organ. Like that. And point out just a few parts to it. This region here is called the lesser curvature. And over here is the greater curvature. Now the greater omentum hangs from the greater curvature. We have this portion up here called the fundus, the body of the stomach there, and over here is called the pylorus. And located here is the pyloric sphincter. A sphincter is a circular ring of muscle. So this part is the pyloric sphincter, which helps to regulate the passage of material on. Of course, this is the esophagus. And this area here is called the cardia. Now, the interesting thing about the stomach is its muscularis layer. Instead of having two layers of muscle, smooth muscle, a longitudinal and circular muscle, it's got a third muscle layer called the oblique layer. Okay. If we were to take a peek on the inside, so this is looking on the inside of the stomach, we see these folds called rugae or gastric folds. Okay, it allows that stomach to expand when filled, and then to retract and go back to a smaller size when not filled. Beyond the stomach, we have the small intestines, and I'm just going to mark this here. The first part of the small intestine is the duodenum, which is about 10 inches long. Then we have the jejunum and the ileum, which are all parts of the small intestine. Alrighty, now within the wall of the stomach, okay, within the mucosa are what's called gastric pits. Because the stomach is special in that it has special cells that secrete different substances. And so if we were to take a look at the wall, part of the epithelium dips down to form glands. Here's the wall of the stomach. So here's the lumen of the stomach. And then we have our cells. So the gastric pit are these depressions in the mucosa of the stomach containing the gastric glands. And there are 5 types of secretory cells that are located along here that secrete substances into the gland, into the duct, which then deposit it in the inner part of the stomach. And these 5 types of cells found in the gastric pits are the surface mucus cells, okay, the surface mucus cells are located here up at the surface. And what do they secrete? They secrete protective mucus. We have the mucus neck cells, found along the neck here of the duct, and they also secrete mucus, but their mucus is acidic. The one up here is alkaline, but down here is the mucus is acidic, and that maintains the acidic properties of this within the gland here. The third type of cell are the parietal cells. The parietal cells will secrete hydrochloric acid. All right, and something called intrinsic factor. An intrinsic factor is important in absorbing, for absorption in the ileum, okay, or the absorption of vitamin B12, and secretes. All right, the fourth type is chief cells. Chief cells secrete an inactive enzyme called pepsinogen. And when exposed to hydrochloric acid, it converts into the protein digesting pepsin. So secretes pepsinogen, which is inactive, and it will be converted to pepsin, which is important in protein digestion. The last type of cell are called enteroendocrine cells. And these are located you know, in various areas along here. So specialized cells. Each one of these cells are located in here. You might want to take a look at the picture. They secrete hormones, gastrin, and another hormone called somatostatin, which are important in digestion. I'm going to just put secrete hormones. Gastrin, and somatostatin. And again, these are important for digestion. They go on and influence the release of some of these other substances in other cells. Alrighty, hope that was helpful.